Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we're going to review a Plaguefall 24. This is the second Plaguefall I've recorded for the week, but it's a really good example of how we can use Mass Dispel to our advantage. This week we are Bursting, which is the main affix, and Volcanic, mixed with Tyrannical. So Mass Dispel is going to be our best friend here, and really the only way to get through the first pull if you want to do all 20 slimes. So looking at the group, I'm already trying to think about where my PI is going to go. So far, Survival Hunter has proven to be a really reliable 2-minute target for myself, and we also have a Demonology Warlock, which is doing really well right now, which I'm going to use for my single target PI for bosses. And this run went really well. I felt like we had a couple deaths, avoidable deaths from our DPS team, but it was nothing that held us up too much. We never had a full wipe, and thankfully we had quick battle reses to aid the recovery. And we're about to get going here. We had a really good run overall, but one thing I'm going to try and point out is a couple of places where I felt like our DPS dropped an entire cooldown window they held. So in a 24 key, we are pressed for time. It's easy to get behind time, and you really have to roll these DPS spells as often as you can. The game even rewards us for doing this with So if you're ever playing with a priest and you get PI, please take it as an opportunity to full send. Do not hold. And here we go. So, little priest trick, I run up right here and fade. I have a macro that casts fade and casts mount. So I quickly mount up while I'm faded, and I just run past, no potion. Start getting atonements out before the aggro table develops. And this is a Hail Mary, all defensive used, and I'm going to try and get into Boon off the top. PI our Hunter, and I target the Plague Belcher because he's the only guy that's going to live too long. So Schism him, Barrier, Wall, Pain Sup myself, Blast, Mass Dispel, Blast. And there was a single dot that was missed on our Warlock. He had a 20 stack, so thankfully a quick single Dispel saved his life. And not a problem there. And that's really the only way to do it if you have a priest. Going 10 and 10 on slimes, I don't know, I think that's harder. So just full send, use all defensives, paints up yourself, and a 20 stack shouldn't be hard. Almost got hit there. So I'm just trying to buy a little time here, getting my dots out, waiting for Boon to come available. And the pack's almost dead. I might hold Boon, except for we lost one of our players. I don't have Schism either, but I think I go into Boon here just to... yeah, this was a Boon without Schism, just trying to get the cooldown rolling, make up for some lost damage. Always keep an eye on the Dispel on the tank. No need really to Dispel single stacks. I don't want to really use a global just for a single, so let it get to like at least 2, but I think 3 is pretty safe as well. So we're stuck in combat because that last ooze. I was spamming res, but nothing happened. So the tank went ahead and took the responsibility of the res. I'm topping health in the group, refreshing atonements, so that we're all covered with lenience as we run into this pack. And this is for sure a Boon pack. So I'm getting out a couple of dots, manually healing some of it, just keeping atonements fresh. I raptured there too, leading into the boon, just to make sure we entered into the pull smoothly. And our pace is a little fast. Generally, you want one more PI in this window before the boss, but we're going a little fast, so we're holding at the moment. And for medium-sized groups with boon, you always want to do a Nova Blast pattern. That is going to be your most optimal DPS and HPS. And we don't get slime. On a Tyrannical week, you want the slime. It's going to help you. But not this time. So I'm watching for the Warlock. He's going to be my single target boss damage for PI. He Qs, so I go ahead and slap him with PI. And we use one cooldown per stomp. The first one was a barrier. Just to lead with some DR, especially while everyone's standing in slime. And Plague Stomp is coming up. I'm getting atonements out. Oh yeah, I think I remember this boss. Its Plague Stomps were like a little weird. But I always try and reserve Penance and Solace for the other side of the stomp, because that is that's your best way to flood heals in the group while moving. So yeah, Penance and Solace there. And for this stomp, the recovery was my first boon. I favored Nova Blast there for single target. And I raptured, and this is where our Plague Stomp timer was a little bit wonk. And I think I had a completely wasted rapture. Sad to see it. Go ahead and put regular shields out, anticipating the stomp. So, fallback plan. Pre-cast, Shadow Fiend. Once you land, cast Schism. And with any of your cooldown windows, you always want to cast a Radiant in the middle of it, just for the payoff. And we didn't have any cooldowns there. I just kept the group healthy and used a Schism. And Penance as you're getting knocked back. Dispel yourself for positioning. The monk should be dispelling himself here, but he's not. I was about to punt that guy away. It looks like he was getting a little too close. And honestly, the biggest challenge is out of the way. So 1 cooldown per stomp. If there's ever a moment where you're low health, or if you just want to work it into your rotation, always pre-wall before a stomp. Desperate Prayer, that's a great way to use it. Those stomps on Tyrannical 24, easy to die from them. So getting all my dots out, we have to keep our disease dispel rolling. So I opted to dispel the 4 stack, and then we just have to kind of heal through the rest of it. Thankfully we have Boon, Blast, Radiant Blast, just to get the coverage. Worked in a Blast, Dispel Blast. And taking a little mana break. This was probably the only time I can ever really remember doing this, but like there was a death when I was out of combat. Could have totally rezzed him, but I accidentally attacked literally just 1 second too late. This is kind of a long pull, so it would have been really great if I had been able to correct that death. Dispel the root off of our tank. He's rooted in the slime, I noticed. And we're down a DPS. I have Shadow Fiend sitting in my bag. I think I cast it here. Don't really need it the next pull. Don't really ever need it for healing. It's just a good single target DPS button, so Shadow Fiend followed by Schism. Only lost a second on value. So I thought we were doing the same thing again. I topped the group up while he was rezzing, but then he canceled his res with 1 second left to go get a lock cookie. Make it make sense. This is always a boon pull. Lead with Fade. Put my spectrometer on the Spinebreaker. Get my dots out. I use a weak ore to glow the nameplate of the Spinebreaker. He's the biggest threat with most health in this group. So get a couple atonements out. PI onto our Hunter right when he Qs. And Schism Boon. Nova Blast. Worked in a Blast Radiance Blast at the top. Mass Dispel the 4-stack. Really fat Penance proc coming out of that bursting. Single Dispel on the tank. He had a lot of dots on him. And that pull is over. It's non-tyrannical, it's not as big of a deal, but still a notable pull. We didn't have any problems with the rooting, but you have to really hover your finger on your Dispel in a pull like that. If you get rooted in the ground damage, that's the double whammy you don't want. Could happen to your allies too, not just yourself. I always try and really keep an eye on if someone gets gripped by the tentacle, because that can also overlap with ground damage. You can't grip the person from the tentacle, but you can snatch them from the air before they land in the ground damage. I don't think there's an example of it here, but it's a really nice way to use grip there. And we have Boon. That's about it. Spectrometer on the mini-boss. A nice Schism Boon. I should have helped target down the Relic, but I didn't. I'm just booning. Not the best boon either. I faded before I attacked those guys. They're not quite on an aggro table yet. And this is a pretty big pull, and we had rolling in our favor. I was waiting for the Hunter to pop, or anyone to pop, but yeah, everyone just held their cooldowns and wasn't fully utilized. But I rolled it on our Hunter, who did use his 1 minute cooldown. There's no reason he shouldn't have full send there. Yeah, PI has faded, combat is still going. It would have been full value, arguably. Yeah, you really only get it once more in this window before the boss. He uses it here. I don't know why you wouldn't have wanted to do it with PI. I think everyone understands what I'm saying. So I Shadow Fiend just for the damage, followed by a Schism. This isn't a hard pull, but it's a long pull, and I try and place my cooldowns in areas where I want to make the pull quicker. That's kind of how I look at it. So Shadow Fiend and Schism, and I just really practice my rotation. I was hoping to get a proc there. That's the only thing about the Penitent one. I wish it were at least a 60% chance proc, like something in our favor. But anyway, Schism on the Pestilence line, he is the enemy with the damage reduction aura, so we have to get him down real quick. Schism and Boon, 3-pack is Nova, Nova, Blast, Nova, Nova, Blast. And still you want to use your single target spells here over Mindseer, because we have to get the slime down. And boss is incoming. The only real threat with this boss are the bombs and not being able to kill them in time. So all DPS should divide their cooldowns, or at least have something to give a bomb. And for you as the Disc Priest, same thing. You want to save a Boon for a bomb, you want to save a Fiend for a bomb. But yeah, here's the boss. Our lock is my single target PI for the boss. And all my cooldowns there were used, so that was a really effective for me. And going into this bomb, I'm going to go ahead and Boon. We have Bloodlust. So Schism, Boon. And with Bloodlust, we get a Nova Blast pattern. So we get more blasts, which means more DPS, more HPS. And that bomb is almost down. Alright, so we're about to have Schism. This is just a small window to DPS. So definitely roll Schism, and then just practice your rotation. Next, hesitated. Grip the lock for safety. Put him in danger, kind of. And so at this point, he's about to jump. Refresh my dot before he leaves. And for this round, we're going to send our Shadow Fiend on the bomb. So a dot, a Shadow Fiend, and a Schism. I don't want to be casting heals here in this short window where the bomb's up with Schism. But our Hunter was taking damage. Have to be a healer first. A lot of avoidables going out in this this key. I track avoidables. If you look at my 4th meter, it's the avoidables. I recommend anyone using that. It breaks down what hits you, so if you're unsure, you can get a breakdown and then go research where it came from, if it's a frontal, if it's ground damage. It's really helpful, and it's a really measurable metric for, like, you know, quantifying your skill level, how well you know the dungeon is, how well you can avoid damage. And it helps the whole group. It helps you stay alive. It helps the healer do more DPS. Staying low on that meter, really important. It's a plugin. It's a details plugin. You can track it. I have mine set to always monitor the overall, and you can see I'm way down the list. And the tank, you know, he is a tank, but he should avoid damage too. He's way at the top. So I've never actually seen this pull, but we're going real big. So I'm leading with just some defensive moves. I Radiance into Rapture, trying to get a stronger Rapture off of our Mastery. And as a real defensive play there, I gave Pain Sup to our ally that was gripped by the tentacle. That can kill someone real easily. Barrier just for safety, not only the damage, but we had bursting incoming. And I thought if I laid down a barrier, at least, you know, 2 of my teammates would join the barrier, and that's where I could cue my Mass Dispel. So, kind of dropped everything there, but we got through. I held Boon. I think it only came up for me mid-pull. I'm not sure. This is one of the first chances I've had to Mindseer. Schism and Mindseer. So now that I use the Penitent one, usually my rotation would be after the cast of Radiance, spam click Penance. But now where I could possibly get a proc there, sometimes I need to use Penance as a defensive, like, single target heal. So these days I'm using Radiance followed by Solace, just to give me a global to determine what happened. Alright, so we have Stealthlings. This is a Boon pull, just straight favor Novas. You want to kill those guys. And I think that was a really good eruption. And we have one more opportunity for PI before the boss. I think I remember what happens, but let's see. So with those Stealthlings, just Mindseer one of your melee who's over there. That's really the best thing you can do to get him down. And I would like to PI here, especially since is next. But I think everyone holds. I was looking at the Monk. He's a 2-minute class, Priest is a 2-minute class. We line up perfectly. I knew he was just waiting for the Stealthlings. And I was waiting to QPI on him. But 30 seconds into the pull, he queues his 1-minute cooldown. So he holds his 2-minute. And this is where I'd get... We're being picky here, but at high levels, monitoring and using offensives correctly is the name of the game. And he goes into this pull to finally use his 2-minute cooldown. And then, now his cooldowns are off sync. Going into boss, his cooldowns are off sync, he only has 1 of them. And we're Tyrannical, so you really need to think about front-loading your boss fights with PI. And cooldowns, I mean. But so there goes his 2-minute Zwin. I'm just playing a little defensively here, trying to get a couple dots out, a couple atonements. I was waiting for the Stealthlings so I could Nova them. And I do want health coverage, so I cast a Radiance in between my globals. And that was a boon where I favored Nova. Yeah, so back to the Monk. So his Zwin is halfway through his cooldown, and his Bone Dust Brew is available. That's not the place you want to be as a Monk. So he plays cooldowns wrong. He dropped Zwin. Really amateur mistake. Pedestrian even. So this boss is no joke. I try and atone a couple people in the group, refresh my dot, Schism, and Boon. A small group like this, Nova Nova Blast. I definitely want the Blast to hit the boss, who's a Tyrannical boss. I weaved in a Radiance there. Blast, Radiance, Blast. Super useful to use grip on this fight. When someone's far out and they're stunned like that, you can just grip them back. There's no global. So I do pool resources in a fight like this and try and just manually heal through most things. If you as the healer are targeted too many times with that Shadow Step, you can run out of defensives quickly and wind up dead. So I do try and hold Pain Sup, and I try and hold Barrier and Rapture. And that was one where I actually think I Shadow Fiend for that round. So Shadow Fiend and Schism and Mindseer. I got carried away. So Boon is almost available. I think I'm going to spend these next 5 seconds just getting atonements out. We have the ads, Schism. Oh, we held Boon. Oh my god. That's crazy. It's funny what you see when you watch your videos back. Anyone who watches my videos, one thing I thought about today is I recommend everyone watching their videos. You always see things that you missed in the heat of combat. I notice a lot of things with my UI when I watch it back, thinking, oh wow, I need to improve that. So I think there's a lot you can gain from watching yourself, even if you're not trying to teach people something. Teach yourself something. But here's my Boon round. Schism, Nova Blast. Trying to keep my rotation spells on cooldown. Grip that guy right back in. And I thought at this point in time, if I went ahead and dropped PI, I'd have it back when we needed it downstairs. So no one was rolling a cooldown at that time, but I went ahead and tossed it on our Warlock, who does pretty good intermittent damage in between his cooldown windows. But here we are, Schism and Mindseer. He turtled that one off. So at this point, I know this is our last round, so I go ahead and dump Pain Sup on our tank. I'm sure he likes the way that feels with all those ads. One of the best feelings for me is a defensive penance that's procced like that. It's so nice just flooding that into a single target. Yeah, with those procs, I would say the best way to use them is an approach where you kind of pool them. So you don't want to dump it immediately. It's a, I believe it's like a 20-second buff from that proc. I try and hold a proc if I can, because it's likely in the next 20 seconds there's a more opportune time for it. And especially if you know what's coming, you can just make better use of those procs. So I'm trying to get down here. There's a lot going on, a lot of AoE, so I thought I'd help out a little bit. But refreshing atonements, I target Ickus and Schism Boon. Nova Blast. Blast, Radiance, Blast. This was a really nice play of these 5 mobs bursted right as died, so it completely negated the effects. Am I saying that right? I think it's the affix, not affix. So all I did was shield everyone for the lenience reduction, and did the rest. So I do have Boon here. I think I delay it until the 5 small ads are about dead, so that I can use Boon instead of Mass Dispel to manage the bursting. Blast, Radiance, Blast. We have a 5 stack. Not a problem for Boon until the mob disappears. But we have a Penance proc. And this is where I noticed I was waiting the whole time for the monk to pop his cooldowns. This is the last time we get to PI before the boss. We have more than 2 minutes until the boss is going to be pulled, you know, from the start of the circle. And he held for the entire room when I'm like dying to PI him. It's crazy. So did the hunter, but the hunter was dead. Yeah, if you don't know this already, and you're a 2-minute class, that room is a 2-minute cooldown room. Since we backtrack to kill these slimes, the route is built that way because this is kind of looked at just as a moment to reset cooldowns. This is a cooldown reset window. So drop your 2-minute cooldowns in the other room. It's very rare that you hold cooldowns in 24s. It's a full send environment, especially when you have a PI. Nice dispel for everyone. I'm just really particular about offensives. You'll notice I use Omni CD and I have weak auras to help track them, but 2-minute cooldowns, you honestly full send, especially with if you're a 3-minute or 4-minute class, that's the only time it's a little bit different. But here we go. Demo lock is pumping. I'm going to go ahead and roll PI since we have here. You never want a cooldown waiting available with the buff. It's a total loss. That being said, I would have popped Boon here. However, the timing of was perfect with the first Acid Rain. So I held my biggest spell and completely negated the first rain. Perfect. I used Penance to spread that third dot. One power play here is to know how to and when to precast your feather on yourself. So it's a 5-second long buff, which is long enough to precast it. You can plan that ahead of time, give yourself a feather so that you can move right when you need to. And this is going to be my first boon round. So anticipating the first rain, I have my dots refreshed. And I tone the group. Schism Boon. Nova Nova Blast. Blast Radiance Blast. And a Penance proc on the outside. Flooded the group with healing. So this would have been great if we were able to push the boss, but we didn't. So I use 2 defensives here. I use a barrier, a Shadow Fiend. I use a Dispel on myself, Schism, and had a Penance proc. So barrier by itself, or Shadow Fiend by itself, on a 24 Tyrannical is not enough. So those kind of need to just be paired up together. You need to plan it that way. And we have PI again, so I'll be watching for an ally to pop their spells. And all I have immediately here is a Rapture. So I'm going to try and get dots out, I think. Yeah, I have a couple dots out just to help pad the healing. So in my Rapture, I wove in a Dispel on myself, lost a global, but I needed to Dispel to keep myself from dying. So I'm anticipating this rain. Everyone's atoned. Boom. Yeah, I knew that was coming, and it sucks to see. It was a poor judgment call in the heat of the moment. I was casting a Radiance to try and heal everyone because I was in Boon, but I needed to play a little more defensively there and dispel myself as one of my globals. But key is just about done. We notice we're at 99 of 100%, so we gotta backtrack a little bit and just kill one little group. Not the best way to end a dungeon, but we have plenty of time to do it. It's just a small tank error. Schism, get that little guy down. And there it was, a 24 Plaguefall. That was my highest key of the season. Got 14 fat points from it, and it was a decent run. All of the avoidable deaths, myself included now, from the DPS team, those don't look too good, but thankfully they did not hinder us from timing the key, and you know, at most we just lost, you know, a handful of seconds, and we had just enough battle reses to get through it with some despair actually. So again, looking at the avoidable damage, you always want to be as low as you can on that. Priests are squishier than other classes, so your best defense is learning a dungeon and avoiding damage everywhere you can. The biggest critique I would have of this overall run was actually, though, the dropped cooldowns. You really need to monitor your downtime and have as much uptime as possible, but other than that, this was pretty good. And until next time, Disc out.